Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to go my review of AEW's Dynamite. Starting off tonight, we have Master P kicking off the show. Master P comes out to the ring, greets the fans. Then Master P brings out the Ops. The Ops are here. Joe then has the microphone and says the Ops are here to celebrate. After that, they're interrupted by the Death Riders. The Death Riders then attack the Ops. Samoa Joe then chokes out Jon Moxley in the middle of the ring. The Young Bucks and Okada then attack Samoa Joe. Swerve is here as well as Omega. Omega then pretty much chases off the Young Bucks and Okada. Joe says that he wants his AEW title back. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of the night. It's Ricochet taking on Mark Briscoe. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Ricochet and Briscoe, with Briscoe keeping the pace of the match. Briscoe then hits an elbow drop off the apron, taking a page out of Cactus Jack's playbook. Briscoe then hits a Death Valley driver on Ricochet in the middle of the ring. Ricochet then gets up, hits a springboard 450 on Briscoe for a near fall. But Briscoe hits a roll-up on Ricochet, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Mark Briscoe. After the match, Ricochet then attacks Mark with a chair, and then Kevin Knight is here to stop Ricochet's attack on Mark Briscoe. Moving on from that, we have the return of FTR. FTR finally returned back to AEW after they were fined and suspended. But Stokely Hathaway is here. Stokely Hathaway is with FTR. Hathaway talks about Paige, Ricochet, and Moxley and how all the stuff they've done in AEW, and they were not fined nor suspended. Hathaway says that he's pretty much representing FTR. Wheeler then has a microphone. He talks about Daniel Garcia. Wheeler says that it's all about FTR. Dax then grabs a microphone and says he wants the Rock and Roll Express that were ringside. They want them to the ring. Dax then hypes up the Rock and Roll Express. But Dax says that the Midnight Express were always better than the Rock and Roll Express. Dax then mocks the Rock and Roll Express. Hathaway then presents a new shirt saying FTR Legend Killers on it. After that, FTR then attack Morton. And then Cole, Strong, and O'Reilly are here to save the Rock and Roll Express. Some interesting stuff there between FTR and the Rock and Roll Express. Moving on from that, we have a tag team matchup. It is the return of the Young Bucks. It is the Young Bucks taking on Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. I thought it was a good match. Probably match of the night for me. Back and forth matchup between the Young Bucks and Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey, with the Young Bucks keeping the pace of the match. Nick Jackson then hits a moonsault to the outside. Bailey then hits an enziguri on Nick Jackson in the middle of the ring. Matt then hits a Northern Light suplex, or multiple Northern Light suplexes in the middle of the ring. Nick Jackson and Kevin Knight both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Kevin hitting Hurricane Rana in the middle of the ring. Bailey then hits a moonsault to the outside. Kevin then hits a UFO splash for a near fall. Young Bucks then hit a Doomsday device on Kevin Knight on the outside. Young Bucks then hit a Meltzer driver on Bailey on the outside as well. Ricochet then attacks Kevin Knight. Match ends in a disqualification. Or actually, the match continues. Young Bucks then hit an EVP trigger on Kevin, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the Young Bucks. Hats off to the Young Bucks for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have the Hurt Syndicate. The Hurt Syndicate come out to the ring with MVP. MVP mocks a tag team division, but they're quickly interrupted by MJF. MJF then comes out to the ring. He's still looking for his 3 thumbs up so he can join the Hurt Syndicate. MVP and Shelton Benjamin finally give MJF a thumbs up. MJF then promises a bright future for the Hurt Syndicate if he is allowed to join them. After that, MJF tells Lashley that he is sorry. MVP then promises Lashley a new car with a thumbs up, a car that MJF showed up to the arena with. And then the Hurt Syndicate and MJF walk to the back. They see MJF's car. Lashley then looks at the car. He gets in the car with Shelton Benjamin. Then he goes to drive off. MJF is still waiting for the thumbs up from Bobby Lashley, but then Bobby Lashley gives MJF a thumbs down and he drives off. It looks like we might see a possible matchup here between Bobby Lashley and MJF. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is a tag team matchup. It is Will Ospreay teaming up with Brody King, taking on the Don Callis family, Josh Alexander and Takeshita. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Alexander and Takeshita keeping the pace of the match. Alexander then applies an ankle lock in the middle of the ring, but the hold is broken. Ospreay hits a Hurricane Rana in the middle of the ring, followed by an enziguri. Takeshita then hits a Blue Thunder Bomb in the middle of the ring for a near fall. Lance Archer causes a distraction with the referee. Ospreay then attacks Lance Archer, but Alexander hits a C4 spike, pins for the 3, And your winners of the match are the Don Callis family. After that, the Don Callis family attack Will Ospreay. Fletcher is here. He makes his way out to the ring to attack Will Ospreay. Page is here as well as Romero and Trent Beretta. They end up attacking Adam Page. It looks like Rocky Romero and Beretta have joined the likes of the Don Callis family. Moving on from that, we go into our main event of AEW's Dynamite. It is a Owen Hart Cup semifinal matchup. It is Jamie Hayter versus Chris Statlander. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Hayter and Statlander, with Hayter keeping the pace of the match. Hayter hits an enziguri on Statlander in the middle of the ring. Statlander then gets up, hits a 450 on Hayter for a near fall, but Hayter hits the finish on Stat, pins for the 3. And your winner of the match, and moving on to the finals to face Mercedes Moné at Double or Nothing, is Jamie Hayter. After that, Mercedes Moné comes out to the stage and pretty much stares down Jamie Hayter. Some interesting stuff there between Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Moné. Couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, was it a solid show? No, it was not. I get why Master P was there. If you guys don't know who Master P is, he's a former recording artist. Obviously, he's entrepreneur. He had No Limit Records, was a big-time record company back in, I would say, the 90s, mid to late 90s into the early 2000s. And they made great records. I was a huge fan of what Master P was doing as far as musically back in the day. Obviously, the No Limit Soldiers and everything else like that. They were a great rap group. Absolutely. And I think Master P, he's been in and out of wrestling for quite some time. If you guys remember back in the WCW days, he pretty much had a No Limit Soldier wrestling team, if you will, in WCW. When he came into WCW, he aligned himself up with Conan and Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman, and they were the No Limit Soldiers, also a.k.a. the Filthy Animals. And I believe he's doing some work. I believe he's the president or something like that, or the promoter for House of Glory, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's doing something with House of Glory. And then after that, after he came out to AEW last night, a lot of people were saying that, Tony Khan and AEW are having some kind of working relationship with House of Glory. Is it a possibility? Sure. Absolutely, it's a possibility. I don't know if it's a for sure thing yet. But as far as people saying, I don't understand why Master P was there last night. Master P was there solely for the fact to generate buzz, and the fact that AEW was also in New Orleans last night, and that's, Master P's hometown. So, that's mainly the reason why he was there. I wasn't against him being there, to be honest with you. I know some people were like, oh, this is kind of lame. I wasn't against it. Like I said, Master P's kind of been in and out of the wrestling business for quite some time. I remember when he first came into professional wrestling, when he was doing something in WCW, like I mentioned earlier, when he brought in the No Limit Soldiers, and he aligned himself up with Mysterio, Kidman, and Conan. And I believe, like I said, I think he does some kind of work, or he might be the president or something like that of, or the owner of House of Glory, if I'm not mistaken. I know he does some kind of work with House of Glory. So, obviously he's still in the wrestling business, if you will. But as far as AEW is concerned last night, man, I think they fell flat. I gave them a lot of praise last week, and my standpoint's the same. I think AEW Dynamite episode last week was the best episode of AEW Dynamite that we've seen of all of 2025. And to be honest with you, probably one of the best AEW Dynamites we've seen in quite some time. And I know why they did it. It was pretty much to break the record of, them being on TBS and TNT longer than what WCW was doing with Nitro and Thunder. And I think they were kind of trying to, Tony Khan was trying to stick it back to, Eric Bischoff. But it was a phenomenal show from top to bottom. And then we get to this week, and I'm kind of hoping, and I even made this abundantly clear last week, that I wanted AEW to go into this week with that same momentum, especially leading up to Double or Nothing, and we just did not get that at all last night. There was some impromptu matches that made absolutely no sense. There was no story around it, and it just fell flat. It was lackluster. But there was a couple of things that I did, some small things that I did appreciate last night from AEW, especially Kevin Knight. I made comments about Kevin Knight when he came into AEW, and my standpoint is somewhat the same. I can see why Tony Khan brought this guy in. Obviously, he was in talks with WWE. I think he was a part of their, ID program for WWE, and they were really interested in bringing him into NXT, and Tony Khan came in and swept in like a hawk and picked this guy up and made him over and brought him over to AEW. And my biggest concern with Kevin Knight was, are they going to continue to keep pushing this guy? Are they going to put him on Dynamite? Are they going to continue to keep pushing him as a top star in AEW or the future of AEW? And I will give Tony Khan credit on that. Ever since the guy has come into the fold of AEW, seemingly he's been on every single Dynamite episode or collision. So, I mean, obviously they have a little bit of praise for Kevin Knight, and the guy has a lot of potential. He has a very high ceiling in AEW, and I know he's going to do some work with New Japan as well. That was one of my biggest, things about AEW. I'm happy that they're continuing to keep pushing Kevin Knight. I think he has a lot of potential in AEW. He could be a future world champion, future TNT champion. And I'm looking forward to what's next with Kevin Knight. Looks like they're going to have some kind of matchup here between him and Ricochet after what happened last night, which I'm all for that. But storyline-wise in AEW, man, it fell flat. I understand we still get the MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. That's probably the best storyline going right now in all of AEW currently. And it is intriguing to see if MJF will finally get the thumbs up from Bob so he can join the Hurt Syndicate. So it's still yet to be seen on if, in fact, that MJF will be joining the Hurt Syndicate. But right now he's got 2 thumbs up. He got a thumbs up from MVP, and he finally got a thumbs up from Shelton Benjamin. So hopefully maybe we'll get a thumbs up from Bob so we can see MJF align himself up with the Hurt Syndicate. But, a lot of the stories kind of fell flat, man, to be honest with you. The Young Bucks tag team match, I think, was match of the night, in my honest opinion. It was great to see them back. The matchup they had against Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey, I thought was a really, really good match. But I'm interested to see how the story's going to play out here with the Young Bucks and the Death Riders, to be honest with you. I know Samoa Joe will be facing off against Jon Moxley for the AEW title. I think that's going to happen May 14th, if I'm not mistaken, at Beach Break. It's gonna be very telling. I mean, I think the thing with Samoa Joe, for me this time around, if he is challenging, he is actually challenging Jon Moxley for the AEW title, is right now that Jon Moxley, Samoa Joe got a win over the Death Riders and became the Trios champions with the likes of with him and Shibata and Powerhouse Hobbs. But as far as a singles run so far for Samoa Joe, it really hasn't been that. So I don't know how that's going to factor in to this matchup against Jon Moxley. Obviously, the rankings in AEW mean jack shit, and we all know that. So it's going to be very telling to see if Samoa Joe does get some single matches leading up to the matchup that he's going to have with Mox on May 14th. But I don't know. And my thing is this. Obviously, we're all waiting for the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament because the winner of that will possibly most likely face off against Jon Moxley at All In. I don't see Samoa Joe beating Jon Moxley for the belt at All In. I think it'll be a mistake to do that at this point. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, why? You want Jon Moxley to lose the belt, and now Samoa Joe's challenging him. Now you don't want Samoa Joe to win. It's not that. I just think for storyline-wise, and the story being that we have the Owen Hart Cup tournament final, most likely I'm rooting for it, whether it be Will Ospreay or Adam Page to be in the final. And then you have All In, which is literally AEW's WrestleMania. They're going to stack this show up the best way they can, and rightfully so. So to me, it could be Moxley versus Ospreay, Moxley versus Page, and then Moxley should be dropping that title at All In, whether it's against Will Ospreay or against Adam Page, and then we finally get, hopefully, maybe a reset button for AEW because, bro, they desperately need it. It's just a lot of things with AEW, especially, and my thing was, with AEW last night is that they could have struck the iron where the iron's hot. And what I mean by that is we all saw what happened with WWE this past weekend for WrestleMania. Now, I'm not saying the Raw after Mania wasn't great. No, it was awesome. But after all the criticism that, WWE got from WrestleMania 41 and how bad it was for both Night 1 and Night 2, if I was Tony Khan, I would capitalize on that and make Dynamite something really special and put on a banger card for the fans for Dynamite, and that's not what happened. And again, it's just one of those things where I think like Tony Khan is behind the 8 ball on some of this shit. Obviously, and I mean, I am going to talk about it because it does relate. When AEW announced the Grand Slam show for the Arena Mexico sometime in June, and then we have WrestleMania coming around, and then, WWE and Triple H announced that they have acquired AAA. And now, they're having an event basically that same weekend, almost close to Grand Slam, where they're having a Worlds Collide show where you'll have main roster, NXT, and AAA talent all working together underneath one roof for the Worlds Collide event. Obviously there is tribalism between both companies. That's just the way it is. I mean, me personally as a fan, I don't have tribalism. I want both companies to succeed. But there's definitely tribalism shit going on. And for the business standpoint and the business model, if we're comparing one to the other from WWE to AEW, yeah, I mean, WWE is playing checkers when, or, Tony Khan's playing checkers when, WWE is playing chess. And what I mean by that is WWE is trying to make this into a global brand. And not that it's not global, but what I'm trying to really say is the fact that, when they purchased AAA and they acquired AAA, Triple H still had this vision specifically for NXT to have NXT Europe and NXT, India and NXT Mexico, NXT Australia. I think this is the start of that. I think Triple H will rename AAA into NXT Mexico, and it will turn into NXT Mexico. I think this is something that they've been planning for quite some time. And now that they acquired, AAA, I think AAA is the start of something big for the NXT brand, to be honest with you. And like I said, it's just kind of ironic how, we had Tony Khan make the announcement that they're going to have Grand Slam in Mexico this year, specifically in the Arena Mexico. And then here we are basically a week later having Triple H announce on, WrestleMania weekend that they acquired the rights of AAA. So, obviously there's tribalism. I mean, Triple H and WWE, as a whole, are trying to do everything they can to shut down Tony Khan and AEW. I mean, that's prevalent more than anything now than ever. And the window's closing. I mean, I'm not saying that AEW doesn't have a chance, but, a lot of people that, that I've talked to are like, oh, well, there's a good chance that Tony Khan might purchase New Japan. And it's still a possibility. I mean, if you look at some of the names, though, that have been in New Japan, a lot of those talents that made a name for themselves in New Japan are currently under the AEW umbrella. Kenny Omega, Okada. I mean, you look at Omega and Okada, they were the two biggest stars in New Japan. Like, they were a big deal in New Japan. And then they bring in the Young Bucks and Adam Page. I mean, all these guys have worked extensively with New Japan at some point. So, and then you look at, Naito leaving and Bushi leaving, like a lot of these top names that are still left in New Japan are like asking for the release or not re-signing a contract with New Japan. So, if Tony Khan were to go that route and possibly purchase New Japan, what does it really do? And to be honest with you, a lot of the top names are already in AEW, like I mentioned. Some names are already leaving New Japan. And how much does it really mean for them to purchase New Japan? Is it a big deal? Sure. But how much of a big deal is it really for them to buy New Japan, considering the fact that we've had multiple Forbidden Door events that was pretty much AEW and New Japan exclusive? And like I said, a lot of the talent that were former New Japan talent are already currently under the umbrella for AEW. So how much does a significant difference does it really make compared to WWE purchasing AAA and bringing them into the fold under the WWE umbrella? I mean, they've never worked extensively or in any capacity with AAA at all. So, again, you have one side of the fence playing chess and the other one playing checkers. And I think AEW, I mean, they dropped the ball last night. I don't think it was something they could have capitalized on this show last night, especially due to the fact that WrestleMania was just a shitty weekend, to be honest with you. I mean, besides the triple threat match between Punk, Rollins, and Reigns, WrestleMania 41 fell flat on its ass. So, I was hoping that AEW would put on a banger show and kind of get behind the, in front of the 8 ball a little bit, and they're not. They bring out Master P, which I mentioned earlier. I know why they did it, and I can appreciate why they did it. But it's not enough for them to, Master P's going to stay AEW. No, it's nothing like that. But I appreciate them bringing him in, and obviously they're in New Orleans, and that's, Master P's hometown. I mean, he's from New Orleans, so I get why they did it. They're trying to get a cheap pop and everything else like that. But it's going to take a lot more than that. And unfortunately with AEW, man, and I'm going to stand on this, and if I had to, I'll die on this hill by myself. Because AEW has a hard time building up younger talent, they need all hands on deck. And I'm not saying, that things will be better with, if they brought in Darby Allin and everything would change. I'm not saying it would. But could I say it would help to bring Darby back? Yeah. To be honest with you, it would help a lot to bring someone back like Darby Allin. They need all hands on deck because they don't know how to build compelling storylines right now. And it's crucial for this company. I remember something where, QT Marshall was on his way out of AEW, and he made comments on his way out, saying that, AEW is not really concerned with story, and it has a lot of, Tony Khan has a lot of, once AEW have a lot of similarities of what All Japan Pro Wrestling was doing. And I made this, I talked about this so many times that, AEW really wants to go back in the Rolodex of time and kind of, take different moments and different types of formats and different promotions and make it into AEW without, them making it into their own. I mean, All Japan Pro Wrestling was basically tournament-based. And I'm not saying that All Japan Pro Wrestling at one time wasn't a great promotion and they didn't put on banger matches. They did. They had fantastic talent. But this ain't All Japan. And All Japan was doing that, and they were at the top of their game in, the 80s and 90s. All Japan Pro Wrestling is not what it once was then to what it is now. I mean, not even close. So, I mean, and Christ, even in All Japan, I mean, a lot of the talent that were in All Japan, like I told you guys before, they ended up having a mass exodus of talent. And they were, all following a suit, following Misawa. And Misawa made, Pro Wrestling Noah, and they all pretty much left with him to help him start Pro Wrestling Noah. And they put on, banger matches in Pro Wrestling Noah. So it's, it's just one of those things where I understand that Tony Khan has a fascination with Japan wrestling, and I get that. But how can you incorporate that into the States and make it work? And I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest downfall for Tony Khan. Tony Khan needs a team around him, and he just doesn't. And WWE does. Triple H has a lot of other people on his team to help him facilitate these different ideas. And it's, being steamrolled right now by Nick Khan. Nick Khan is the guy that's pulling, and Ariel Emanuel and all those guys are Ari Emanuel that run TKO, and Nick Khan and Triple H. He has a team over there that are, pulling the trigger on significant things to benefit WWE, and they're doing it the right way, where you look at AEW, and they are severely behind the 8 ball. They're not making things work for the company, man. It's just, it's pretty much AEW's running day in or day out, or, okay, well, we got this week done, let's get to next week. And I don't know who is a part of the writing team for AEW, but they need to be gone. It's just, I don't know who the hell they are or who the hell it is. They need to go. It's just, it's not hitting, bro. And, if we keep going the way that we're going with AEW currently right now as a whole, it's not going to last, bro. It's just not. I mean, if you guys can't see the writing on the wall at this point, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't, because at this point, you have to look at the narrative, man. I mean, if people are joining AEW at this point, it has to be solely for the money, for the financial gain that they will be getting joining the likes of AEW. To be honest with you. I mean, I made comments, I think it was last week, I put a video out about Mariah May possibly being WWE bound. And it doesn't seem far-fetched, because a lot of people were talking about it, and from more news that I found out about it is that she already asked for her release right around the Hollywood ending match. Like, she wanted to be gone from AEW. She's done everything that she thought that she wanted to do in the company. So, can I still see her being gone and going to WWE? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's only going to take a few more names to leave that company to actually, people actually realize, oh shit, we're AEW's in deep shit. Names like MJF and stuff like that. I mean, MJF leaving AEW might ultimately be the gut punch for AEW. To be honest with you, man, because people love to hate him and people love him. You know what I mean? And if he walks out the door and joins the likes of Cody Rhodes and Jade Cargill and CM Punk over in WWE, it's a big, big deal. And it might be the final, the kill shot for AEW, to be honest with you, man. So, them building up talent right now and building compelling storylines right now is crucial for this company at this point. And you got Double or Nothing as one of AEW's big shows, and then you got All In right after that. So, I mean, you had to start building storylines for these events. I think Double or Nothing is roughly, about a month away, pretty much, yeah. We need to start building storylines, man. I think it's May 25th for Double or Nothing. We need story. We need build and figure out where the hell this is going. You know what I mean? And start building up storylines and matches for Double or Nothing. And we're not getting it right now. Samoa Joe, I have all the praise in the world for Samoa Joe, but him asking for a title shot when he hasn't even had a singles match since he's really been back. I mean, he's been really focused on the ops. It's kind of, it's daunting, to be honest with you. It's kind of like, man, we're going to get this shit again with Samoa Joe. I'm not a big fan. I'm not, this time around, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not. Hopefully Moxley will drop that belt sometime soon. Do I think it's going to be against Samoa Joe? No, I don't. Moxley's taking that belt to All In. And hopefully at All In, this all comes to an end with the Death Riders. And we get a new AEW World Champion, and we get more title defenses, and we actually get to see the fucking title, because we haven't seen the title since October of last year. So hopefully at All In, it would be a done deal, because at that time, we get to All In with Moxley, still being AEW World Champion, he'd be having that belt, or he would be holding that belt at that point for 9 months. So something needs to change, because obviously the Death Rider shit's not working. So, but last night's show was one of those shows, man, where I was just, I don't know if it's because I was getting burnt out just from the whole WrestleMania weekend and everything else like that, but it just, AEW last night just felt lifeless. and emotionless, man. Like, there was nothing there for me where I was like really truly invested in the show last night, bro, and it fell flat on its ass, to be honest with you. And hopefully things do change. I mean, I was hoping that they would, from what happened last week with Dynamite, they would make this week, about the same, if not better, and we capitalize on what happened last week. No, that's not the case at all. So, I mean, I think we're back to square one again with AEW, where we're going to continue to get these shitty AEW shows from here on out, man. And honestly, for what it's worth, it's actually like mind-numbing and exhausting at the same time. When people, other podcasters out there, including myself, that, we're saying the same shit over and over again, not by, we're not doing it on purpose. It's at the point now where it's like, what else do we say about this company? Because, man, you still got a job to do, number one. And number two, it's like, what the hell are we doing? You know what I mean? This is literally a definition of rinse and repeat every week. It is the same shit every week. You know what I mean? And I had a lot of hope, you know what I mean? I was hoping that they had, from what happened last week, they would carry this into this week and it'd be another really good show. No. Absolutely not, man. And I don't get it. My thing is, I think with my standpoint on AEW is the same what I've been saying for the past couple months, man, that, once they got that new TV deal, Tony Khan was coasting, bro. I mean, he put it in cruise control and he's going to, take his hands off the wheel. And we're going to see what happens here with AEW. And that's exactly what the hell's going on here. I think Tony Khan at the time, leading up to the TV rights negotiations for a new contract, I think he was trying to do everything that he possibly could at that time to make AEW a viable product and something that Time Warner and Warner Media would be invested in to actually grant Tony Khan a new TV rights deal. And he was able to pull it off. And then once he found out that there was a viable product and they bought in to AEW and gave them a new TV rights deal, Tony Khan has this belief, well, I've done all the hard work now and this is it. And that you can't be any more wrong than that right there. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's ultimately what's going on here with AEW. And unfortunately it's going to affect the company. And, I'm not the only one that's saying this. I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to that are like, man, I give another 2-3 years or at least until this TV rights contract that are in now, once it comes to an end, it might be the ultimate end of AEW if things don't get better, to be honest with you. So, from people that I've talked to, they're like, man, savor the moment because we don't know how long this shit's going to last with AEW. And I can't necessarily blame them for saying that because how many names are we going to lose in AEW until it gets to a point where it's like, man, you know what? This company is done. It's over. You know what I mean? And it's sad, bro. It's unfortunate, but it's just the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? AEW are not willing to actually look into their shit and actually realize that what they're doing is not working. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. And it's week in and week out, and we're getting the same shit and matches that make no sense at all. I mean, what was the purpose of Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe? To be honest with you. With all due respect to Mark Briscoe, what was the point of this matchup? What was the story? What is this leading into with Mark Briscoe and Ricochet? It meant nothing. We have Will Ospreay in a match with teaming up with Brody King to take on Josh Alexander and Takeshita. Why? You know what I mean? And they're saying, oh, this is an all-star Owen Hart Cup tournament tag team matchup or some shit. Brody King's out of the tournament, from what I understand. And Alexander's not he was in a tournament and he was out. He was taken out by Adam Page because he was the wild card. And then we have Takeshita, which, we all saw what happened with that. So, I mean, I don't know what the purpose of doing this was and how really what does it do for Will Ospreay? I mean, Ospreay's still in the tournament and he's a favorite to win it. So I don't a lot of these guys like Brody King, they lost the tournament. You know what I'm saying? So what was the purpose of putting Will Ospreay in this tournament? It meant nothing. Just to have the Don Callis family come out and once again beat the shit out of Will Ospreay because Don Callis can't just move on from Will Ospreay. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I don't get it, bro. I don't get it at all. You know what I mean? And yeah, the Young Bucks tag team match, it was great. What did it mean? I have no idea. I have no idea what that meant. The only match that to me honestly made sense storyline-wise, remotely, would be Chris Statlander versus Jamie Hayter because they're in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. That's about it. You know what I'm saying? There really wasn't a lot of matches that were on here that made sense. And then we had the Hurt Syndicate segment, which, yeah, that makes sense. It's probably the only story that we genuinely have right now in all of AEW. That's it. You know what I mean? So I don't really know what happened with this company, but it just fell flat on its ass, man. And I don't get it. I just don't. Like, do you not give a shit about your product? Do you not clearly give a shit about the fans? You know what I mean? Like, this is what we're going to get, and this is the best that we're going to get from AEW? And all you keep saying is, oh, we got the best talent in the world. Yeah, bro, you do. You probably got the number one wrestler in the world right now with Will Ospreay, but that's not going to mean jack shit if you're not putting out decent storylines for these matches. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, we're going to put on banger match after banger match. That's great, bro. But eventually that shit's going to run flat on its ass and run stale. We need story. Fans want story. We want something. We want the reason why. You know what I mean? We want to know how this happened, why this happened. You know, when is the match going to take place? The when, the where, and the why. I've been saying that shit for years now, seemingly with AEW. That's what we want. You know what I mean? And that's all we want. Give us something that's compelling, bro. Give us something that we can get invested in. Give us something, a cliffhanger, if you will, that will be us getting excited to see what happens next week. We're not even getting that shit. Like, give us something, bro. Something for us to hold on to, and you can't even do that. So it's just, it's week in and week out of the same constant bullshit, bro. Rinse and absolute repeat. And hopefully, I'm hoping that things change for AEW, bro, because if not, this company's not going to last, man. People are not going to get invested in this product anymore because it's getting boring. And people are, don't give a shit anymore. They're going over to watch WWE right now because it's more compelling television. It's more story-driven. It's more, more cliffhangers. I watched Monday Night Raw this past week, and then at the end of that show, they left a humongous cliffhanger with Braun Breaker joining the likes of Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. And I made comments about it that is Paul Heyman, creating a dangerous alliance 2.0. Are we going to see Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and possibly, Becky Lynch a part of being in this stable because Becky turned heel as well on Lyra Valkyria? You know what I mean? Is Becky going to join, her husband and Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker and join this super group, the new Dangerous Alliance? Is that going to happen? You know what I'm saying? And hopefully we find out more about that this Monday Night Raw coming up. That's what we want. That's what AEW needs, bro. It is not hard to do, nor is it hard to comprehend. It's just Tony Khan and AEW refused to do anything like that. Why? Because they're coasting. And they think what they're doing right now is compelling television enough just to get them by. It's not, bro. I don't know who's feeding Tony Khan this bullshit. Whoever that is, they need to be fired. Honestly. And for some reason, bro, I have this conspiracy theory in my head where I feel like sometimes they're self-sabotaging themselves. And there's somebody within that company right now that is trying to ultimately kill that company from inside. To be honest with you, man. This is how I believe. Call me crazy, but I genuinely feel like that's what's going on here. That they're just coasting. And those people, whoever it is, they're just collecting a check and just waiting for the right opportunity just to shut this shit down. And that's it. You know what I mean? And AEW is no more. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember,